thought the worst part of having a roommate was lack of privacy. I didn't realize privacy was the only thing keeping me safe. Nightmare 1. When I moved to Wichita for work, I couldn't afford a place on my own. Through a rental listing, I found a roommate named Eric. He was 29, worked in IT, and seemed quiet when we met. The apartment itself was decent, nothing special, but clean. At first, Eric barely spoke. He mostly stayed in his room with the door shut. I actually preferred that. I liked having space. The first strange thing happened about 2 weeks after I moved in. I came home from work and noticed my bedroom door was closed. I always left it open. When I walked inside, something felt off. My desk chair was slightly pulled out. My closet light was on. I assumed maybe maintenance had entered for something, but management confirmed no one had been inside the unit. A few nights later, I noticed Eric standing in the hallway when I stepped out of my room. He quickly turned around and walked back into his. I didn't think much of it at the time. Then one evening, I left early to grab dinner and forgot my headphones. I came back about 10 minutes later. As I opened the front door, I heard movement inside my room. My heart started pounding. When I pushed the door open, Eric was standing near my desk. He immediately stepped back. "Oh, I thought you weren't home," he said casually. I asked what he was doing. He said he thought he heard water running in my room and didn't want anything to flood. There was no water running. Nothing was out of place, but the explanation didn't feel right. After that, I started keeping my bedroom door locked. A week later, I noticed scratch marks around the lock, small, but definitely new. I asked Eric if he had tried opening my door. He laughed. Why would I do that? The final night I stayed there, I woke up around 2 a.m. to the sound of my doorknob slowly turning. It didn't open, but the handle moved slightly, back and forth. Whoever was on the other side didn't knock, didn't say anything, just tested the lock. I moved out the next week, because sometimes you don't realize how important privacy is until someone shows you they don't believe in it. Living with someone means trusting them with access to your space. But sometimes roommates don't just cross boundaries. They quietly start erasing them. If you're enjoying these true stories, subscribe to Nightmare Central, because the next nightmare shows how quickly small concerns can become something much more disturbing. Nightmare 2. I found my roommate Jenna through a mutual friend in Kansas City. She seemed friendly, outgoing, and easy to live with. At first, everything felt normal. We split groceries sometimes, shared household supplies, typical roommate stuff. After about a month, I started noticing food going missing. At first, it was small things: yogurt cups, protein bars, leftovers. I assumed I had eaten them and forgotten. Then, one night, I brought home takeout and put it in the fridge for lunch the next day. When I opened the fridge the next morning, the container was empty, washed, placed neatly back on the shelf. I asked Jenna if she had eaten it. She laughed and said she thought it was old. It wasn't old. I had just bought it. Then I noticed something stranger. She began buying groceries that matched mine exactly. Same brand cereal, same snacks, same drinks. But hers remained untouched. Mine kept disappearing. One evening, I opened the freezer and saw multiple packages of the same frozen meals I had purchased days earlier, all unopened. When I asked her why she bought duplicates, she said she liked to stay consistent. Then she started commenting on what time I usually ate dinner, what time I woke up, what days I grocery shopped, things I never told her. One night, I woke up thirsty around 3 a.m. and walked to the kitchen. The apartment was dark except for the refrigerator light. Jenna was standing there, staring inside the fridge, not moving. She didn't notice me at first. When she turned and saw me, she smiled slightly. "I was just thinking about what you might want to eat tomorrow." The way she said it made my stomach drop. I started keeping food in a small fridge in my room after that. 2 weeks later, I came home and found the mini fridge door slightly open. She claimed she thought it was broken and wanted to check. I moved out shortly after, because sometimes control doesn't look aggressive. Sometimes it looks polite, helpful, observant, until you realize someone is studying every detail of your life. The first 2 nightmares show how uncomfortable sharing a space can become when boundaries slowly disappear. But the final nightmare shows what happens when a roommate stops seeing you as a roommate and starts seeing you as part of their life in ways you never agreed to. Nightmare 3 is the darkest story in tonight's episode. Nightmare 3. When I moved to Tulsa for graduate school, I rented a 2-bedroom townhouse with a guy named Mark. Mark seemed normal when we met. Quiet, polite, kept conversation brief. He mentioned he worked remotely doing data entry, mostly kept to himself. For the first month, everything felt typical. We shared utilities, occasionally talked about schedules, nothing unusual. Then I noticed he was always home. Every time I left, every time I returned, always in the same spot on the couch, laptop open, but rarely typing. One night, I mentioned I might start studying late at the campus library. He asked what time I usually left. It seemed like casual conversation, so I told him. The next morning, he mentioned I had gotten home later than expected. I never told him what time I returned. I assumed he just heard the door, but over the next few weeks, he began casually referencing details about my routine that I never shared, commenting on when I usually shower, when I typically called my parents, even what time I turned off my bedroom light. At first, I thought the walls were just thin. Then one evening, I came home earlier than usual. Mark looked surprised to see me, almost nervous. His laptop screen closed quickly when I walked in. Later that night, I noticed something unusual in the hallway. A small black object placed on the shelf near the laundry room. I didn't recognize it. When I picked it up, I realized it was a small recording device. When I asked Mark about it, he immediately took it from my hand. "It's broken," he said quickly. "I was going to throw it away." The explanation didn't feel right. A few days later, I noticed something else. My bedroom door was open, not how I remembered leaving it. Inside, my desk chair had been repositioned. Then one night, I woke up around 2 a.m. needing water. As I walked past the spare bedroom, I noticed light coming from under the door. That room was supposed to be empty. Mark had said he used it only for storage. The door was slightly open. Inside were shelves filled with labeled boxes, each labeled with dates, times. I opened one of the boxes. Inside were printed photos. Photos of me leaving the house, returning home, taking out trash, standing in the kitchen. Even photos taken through the living room window, some taken from outside, others taken from inside the house. Behind the photos were pages of handwritten notes, descriptions of routines, times I left for class, times I returned, which lights I used most often, which days I seemed tired, which days I stayed home. I felt sick. I immediately left the townhouse and contacted police. Investigators later discovered small hidden cameras placed in shared areas of the home. Mark had been quietly documenting my routines for months. possibly since the first week I moved in. Police found hundreds of photos organized chronologically, every predictable habit carefully recorded. The spare room had been turned into a monitoring space. He had built a timeline of my daily life, minute by minute, movement by movement. I moved out immediately. Even now, I hesitate before agreeing to live with anyone I don't know extremely well, because sometimes the person sharing your home is quietly learning everything about you, not as a friend, not as a roommate, but as someone who sees your life as something to observe, control, and document. And sometimes, you don't realize how closely someone has been watching until you find the evidence they never expected you to see. Something even scarier than this nightmare is not watching more videos from Nightmare Central. This was nightmares of trust. Sleep carefully.